going on, y'all? This is 5 Sports Talk back at it with another video talking NBA. And I know you guys have been waiting for this, my NBA playoff predictions, basically season preview, season standings, and then playoff predictions. So, NBA season right around the corner. Don't want to waste any more time. Let's give out these predictions on which teams that I think will finish with what seeding, and then give you guys my playoff picks, and then my eventual NBA champion. So without further ado, let's get into it. Start in the dreadful Eastern Conference and give you guys my top 8 teams that will make the playoffs, or just my 8 playoff teams basically, in the conference. And at number 1, no surprise, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. And really, this was really not a huge leap to make, even though the Cavaliers did not finish with the number 1 draft here last year. That was the Boston Celtics. And the Celtics are, of course, my number 2 seed. But the reason I have the Cavs over the Celtics is because I believe this Cleveland roster, even without LeBron James now, when he rests or when he has to maybe, even take some time off, sometimes he does that mid-season. This roster, I believe, now has enough depth to not be completely awful without LeBron James on the floor, okay? I'm talking about the bottom falling out without LeBron James when he is not on the court. They added Derrick Rose, they added Dwayne Wade, they got Jay Crowder in the Kyrie Irving trade. Of course, you have Isaiah Thomas, and yes, I know he's projected to miss the first month or so, or a little bit more of the season, but that is why you have Derrick Rose and you signed him. And so that depth that you need is there for this team to still be decent, even when LeBron James is not on the floor. But LeBron never gets hurt, so he will be there and be available. So that is why I think this team is going to win the number 1 seed, because they have that requisite depth. Of course, they have the star power, we all know it, and they're going to tinker with the lineup a little bit this year. I know there's been rumblings of Kevin Love starting at center, which means Tristan Thompson to the bench. Their bench becomes much deeper, like I mentioned. So they are looking to play small ball this year. Let's see how that works. But I have the Cavaliers as the number 1 seed, which of course means the Celtics are my number 2 seed. The Kyrie Irving trade made them the 2nd most talented team in this conference. Now they have their own mini big 3 in Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, and Al Horford. I'm a big Gordon Hayward fan, folks. I loved him since his days in Utah. I thought he was extremely underrated. He's one of the best two-way players that we have in this NBA, and he is one of the best scorers that we have in this league. I just like Gordon Hayward because he's solid. You know what you're going to get from him every night, and that is what I think he's going to bring to the Celtics team. Of course, you have Al Horford. You got guys like Jaylen Brown, you got the rookie Jason Tatum. So there's no surprise here with the Celtics. They're going to be a good-ass team, okay? They're the number 2 seed. 3 seed, the Wizards. I have the Wizards over teams like the Raptors and Bucks for a particular reason. I believe John Wall is going to take another level this year into the MVP conversation, okay? I think he is that damn good. I think he's easily the best point guard in the Eastern Conference. Yes, that's right, over Kyrie Irving. And he is a top 5 point guard in the NBA. I think John Wall brings this Wizards team to the next level and becomes a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. Then we go with the Raptors. They always make the playoffs. They're going to, be in there. They've been making it for the past couple seasons, but does this mean they're going to go anywhere this year? Not really. The roster hasn't changed over too much. I know they traded for Serge Ibaka last year, but pretty much this team goes where Kyle Lowry and DeRozan go, and I don't see them going any farther than they usually do, okay? Then we have the Milwaukee Bucks at the number 5 seed, and I know a lot of people want the Bucks to be higher than this. They finished with the 6th seed last year, so not an incremental jump, even though a lot of people are expecting Giannis to make that leap to MVP conversation that I talked about with the John Wall making. But I do think the Bucks will be good. I just don't see them making that big of a leap. And the top of the Eastern Conference is still pretty competitive. So I have the Bucks at the number 5 seed. And then 6, 7, and 8, I got the Sixers, I got the Hornets, and I got the Pistons, okay? I mean, at this point, you're just cutting hair in terms of picking and choosing who's going to be the 7th and 8th seed. The Sixers, I mean, I like their big 3 of Joel Embiid, who's going to be an absolute monster if he stays healthy. And I know that's a big if, but this guy could be the best center in the league. They got the number 1 pick, Markelle Fultz. Ben Simmons, I'm really high on. He's my rookie of the year. So just based off of talent, I like them as a 6th seed, and I know that's reaching a lot because they were nowhere close to this last year, but I like them just based off of talent. Got Hornets. They've been steady for the past couple of seasons. They added Dwight Howard this offseason. No, I don't think that's a big difference, but like I said, they're always a tough team, and they're sort of like a mediocre, middle-of-the-pack type of team, but they do have enough star power. I know Nicholas Batum might be out, maybe for the entire year, but definitely for a couple months. But really, to me, it could be either the Hornets, Heat, or the Pistons. So for me, it doesn't really matter too much who's at the bottom because they're going to get swept by the Cavs either way. So with that being said, let's move on to the Western Conference. I have the Golden State Warriors at number 1. I'm not going to talk about this because this should be a no-brainer, and if you think the Warriors shouldn't be the number 1 seed, you shouldn't be talking basketball. So let's move on to the number 2 seed. Let's talk about the Rockets. This was hard for me. There was a couple teams I could have picked with the number 2 seed. I wanted to go Spurs. They were the number 2 seed last year, but Kawhi might be out for I don't know how long at the beginning of the season. And this team really didn't do a lot in terms of their makeover of their roster. And I think LaMarcus Aldridge is in a steady decline. I don't see him getting any better. So for me, the Spurs, I have them as the 3 seed. I got the Rockets as the number 2 seed. Of course, they acquired Chris Paul in the offseason. Him and James Harden, it could go really well, but it could also go really bad. But I'm betting on it going pretty well. They've got shooters for days. Eric Gordon, Ryan Anderson. I like their center, Clint Capella. So let's see what happens with them. At number 4, you got the OKC Thunder. I wanted to put them a little higher. I just think they're going to have some growing pains with the chemistry issues. I like Melo. I like PG. Let's see how they gel with Westbrook when he is gunning it down the floor and taking the ball by himself to the basket. Now, I know in preseason they've been moving the ball around a lot, but like I said, I just see them experiencing a little bit of growing pains at the beginning of the season, which is why I have them as 4 seed. Number 5 seed, the shock of the Western Conference, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who I expect to make a humongous leap, and Tom Thibodeau is my coach of the year. They acquired Jimmy Butler, who is probably their best player. Karl Anthony Towns, 1A, 1B between those two guys. Andrew Wiggins signed that max contract, so he's going to be there for the long haul. Jeff Teague, their new point guard, and their bench is stacked as well. They got Jamal Crawford, they got Gorgie Zhang, so I really like this team. I think they are going to make a big leap this year, and they're going to be on the floor because Tibbs will not take them off the floor, which means the stars are going to play minutes, okay? See them as the 5th seed. 6th seed, Clippers. I don't think this team is going to fall out, folks. I really don't. I know they lost Chris Paul, but I think Blake Griffin makes a huge leap this year. I have him as a dark horse candidate for MVP. I know that's saying a lot, but I really like Blake this year. You still got DeAndre Jordan. You added the point guard from Europe, Milos Teodosic. You still got Patrick Beverley in the Chris Paul trade. I like him. He's scrappy. And you got Lou Will in that trade as well. So I think this team, and then of course, can't forget Danilo Gallinari. I think this team is deep. I think this team is going to be solid, and I think this team is going to be more balanced now. And Blake Griffin is going to be able to handle the ball, which he's really good at, and he couldn't do with Chris Paul there. So make sure you guys see Blake Griffin this year. I think he takes a big leap, barring injury. Okay, so I have the Clippers as the 6th seed. Then I have the Blazers at the 7th seed. A lot of people forget, when they acquired Yusuf Nurkic, they were a team to be reckoned with. Of course, they lost him for the playoffs. That is why the Warriors easily swept them. I'm not saying they would have beat the Warriors, but it would have been more competitive than it was. I see them making the playoffs this year as a 7th seed. And then at the 8th seed, I got the Denver Nuggets with their acquisition of Paul Millsap. I like their team. Jokic is going to be a beast. You got guys like Gary Harris who signed an extension. Jamal Murray I really like. So this team, young, talented, fresh, exciting, like it. I want to see the Nuggets in the playoffs, so I have them there. Jazz, I wanted to put them in there as well, but they lost Gordon Hayward, their best player. I think Rudy Gobert is going to be a monster, but in terms of carrying this team, it might be a little too much for him. So I'm not sure about that. I have the Nuggets beating out the Jazz, and then, of course, I'm missing the Pelicans. I just don't see too much outside of AD and DeMarcus Cousins for this roster to make the playoffs. Let's move on to the playoff predictions. Okay, let's start again with the Eastern Conference. The 1 and 8 seed, the Cavs Pistons, 4-0 Cavs sweep. Let's move on. The Raptors and Bucks, 4-5 seed. This is probably going to be a pretty competitive series, but I think Giannis makes that leap to MVP this year. He is going to be the best player in this series, and I think the Raptors' sort of ceiling has been hit. They need to do something else with this roster unless Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan decide to become MVP candidates, which I don't see happening. I have the Bucks winning this. Jabari Parker will be back as well. 4-2 Milwaukee Bucks. Moving on to the number 2 seed and number 7 seed, the Celtics versus the Hornets. Hornets are a nice team, but they're losing here easy. 4-1 Boston Celtics. Washington Wizards, number 3 seed against the Philadelphia 76ers. This is going to be a nice series to watch, but it won't be close in terms of winning the games. It'll be close in terms of the games being competitive. I think the Sixers will put up a fight, but I think the Wizards win this 4-1, moving to the next round. Okay, then we move on to the semifinals with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Milwaukee Bucks. I have the Cavs winning this 4-2. I do see the Bucks putting up a fight. Like I said, I am expecting big things from Giannis this year. They have the Rookie of the Year from the past year, Malcolm Brogdon. They got Jabari Parker back. So I like this roster. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are easily going to still win, but I do think it will be competitive, and I do think the Bucks will win 2 games in this series, though I would not be shocked if the Cavaliers won in 5 games. Moving on to the Celtics and the Wizards. Love this series. I think it goes 7. I really couldn't decide who to pick in this series. Like I said, I'm big on John Wall, but I also think the Celtics have more star power than the Wizards, and I think they're deeper, so I'm going to go with the Celtics in this series, so I see it going 7, picking the Celtics to win this series. And now, in the conference finals, we have LeBron versus Kyrie, which I hope this really happens in the playoffs. But I'm picking LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers to win this series 4-2, excuse me. In 6 games, I have the Cavaliers beating the Celtics. I think LeBron James is going to go off in this series. I think Kyrie Irving is going to go off in this series, but the Cavaliers have a better roster. They're deeper. I think the Cavaliers win this in 6 games, and they're going to have home court advantage as well. Cleveland goes back to the NBA Finals. What is that, 8th straight trip for LeBron James back to the NBA Finals? First for Derrick Rose. By the way, shout out D Rose. Going to be rooting for him this year. I'm a Bulls fan, but I've always been a Derrick Rose fan as well. So Cavaliers make the playoffs. Make the finals again. Okay, no surprise there. Now let's talk the Western Conference. The number 1 seed, the Warriors, against the number 8 seed, the Denver Nuggets. Sweep 4-0, bring out the brooms, Warriors. 4 seed Thunder versus the 5 seed Timberwolves. Think this is going to be a very competitive series, folks. The Timberwolves are no joke. I think they're going to be very good this year, but I'm picking the Thunder to win this game. I think Melo is going to be motivated to make some noise in the playoffs. I think he's going to play well. And the Timberwolves, outside of Jimmy Butler, no one on this roster has any playoff experience. Of course, Tom Thibodeau does and as well, but Jimmy Butler and Tibbs are the only guys. I think they're a year away from making some real noise in the playoffs. I have the Thunder winning this, but it's going to be close, 4-3, 7 games, OKC. Number 2 seed, the Rockets, against the number 7 seed, Blazers. Blazers going to be a tough out, but I see the Rockets winning this one 4-2. Moving on to the Spurs, Clippers 3 versus 6 seed. Also think this will be a tougher matchup than a lot of people think. The Clippers roster is deeper. Blake Griffin's going to make another leap this year, but you can't go against Greg Popovich and company, going with the Spurs in this series 4-2. Moving on to the conference semifinals, the Warriors against the Thunder. Folks, gonna wait for this matchup. I cannot wait for this to happen. I really hope it does. I really hope the Warriors and Thunder meet in the playoffs because of Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. I see Westbrook going berserk in this series, but you got to go with the Warriors to win. They're just too deep. They're just too good. And as much as I like the Thunder and as much as I like Westbrook, I have to pick the Warriors in this series, though I think Westbrook somehow, some way, makes it go 7, even though it shouldn't go 7. Moving on to the Rockets and the Spurs. Now, the Spurs won this series last year, but I see the Rockets getting revenge. Chris Paul is going to add some toughness to this team, and I think they are going to win this series 4-2 over the Spurs. I think the Spurs roster needs some more turnover. I think their guys, we say this every year, they're too old, but I'm not going to use that excuse. I just don't think LaMarcus Aldridge is playing well, and I think I need him to step up. And let's see what Kawhi's health is by the time the playoffs roll around, if he's healthy all year. But I have the Rockets. I think they're a deeper roster, and I think they're going to win this series. Moving on to the conference finals, The Warriors against the Rockets, going to be a very, very good series. But I have the Warriors winning this one 4-2, beating the Rockets in 6 games. Though I do think it will put up a fight. This is going to be a tough matchup for Steph Curry. Chris Paul is going to be on him. You got Kevin Durant. Of course, the MVP from last year of the NBA Finals. You got Draymond Green. You got Klay Thompson. But James Harden and Chris Paul will not be enough to beat the Warriors. I have the Warriors winning this. And lo and behold, what do you have, folks? Warriors and Cavs in the NBA Finals for the 4th straight year. Look, I wanted to find a way for this not to happen. But unless injuries occur, this is most likely going to happen. More so for the Warriors and the Cavs. If injuries occur... if injuries don't occur, excuse me, this is going to be the outcome. Cavs, Warriors. Who do I have winning this matchup? Let's talk about it, folks, okay? Let's break it down. Who do I have winning the NBA Finals this year? This was tough for me. I wanted to go heart over head or head over heart. My head says Warriors. My heart says Cleveland Cavaliers, okay? But I'm not going to hedge my bet here. Who do I have winning this? I'm going to go with the Cleveland Cavaliers to win the NBA Finals. And hear me out, folks. The reason I'm going with the Cavs is because it's not just a gut pick, though my gut does says pick the Cavaliers. I really do think, outside of acquiring somehow another superstar, which is Anthony Davis or somebody like that, this roster, this Cavaliers roster, is the best that it can get outside of adding another star. And you know how hard it is to add a star in this league, okay? Now, if the Cavaliers somehow pull off a DeMarcus Cousins trade midseason by trading away that Brooklyn pick, and remember, they still have that Brooklyn pick, outside of adding that through a pick, this is the best roster for this team. And for that reason, I believe it is going to be just enough to beat this Warriors team, folks. They have somebody to guard Kevin Durant besides LeBron James. They have Jay Crowder. I think Derrick Rose is going to play very well this year as a 6-man off the bench. You got J.R. Smith scoring off the bench, okay? You got, I would argue the Cavs roster, their bench is way deeper than the Warriors bench, okay? I know the Warriors have Andre Iguodala, but look at what the Cavs have. They got Derrick Rose, J.R. Smith, Jeff Green. He's another guy, a body you can throw at Kevin Durant. I'm not saying these guys can stop him, but can you slow him down? Yes, okay? And then you can put LeBron on maybe a Steph Curry. You got D. Wade on Klay Thompson. And then you got Kevin Love down low. You also got Kevin Love on the wing as well. He can shoot threes. But Tristan Thompson can come off the bench if they start Love at the 5 and Jay Crowder at the 4. Jay Crowder to guard Draymond Green. There is finally players on this Cavaliers roster that can give some mismatches for the Warriors. They can screen them, and they can switch with pretty much every player on this team, and that is where the Warriors really excelled. They would put the Cavaliers players like Kevin Love in pick-and-roll situations and pick-and-roll to death. They can't do that with a better defender, Jay Crowder, who can also hit threes as well. So just for that reason, I think this Cleveland Cavaliers roster, and like I said, they might not be done yet. They could acquire somebody with that Brooklyn pick if the Cavaliers decide to use it, is the best it can get without adding another star, and I think that's going to be just enough to put them over the Warriors. I have the Cavaliers winning the NBA Finals 4-3 in 7 brutal games. LeBron James wins his 4th NBA championship. So there you have it, folks. Let me know what you guys think. Who wins the NBA Finals this year? Cavs, Warriors, or somebody else? Make a case for them down below. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please make sure to subscribe and follow me on my social media. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Link down below for that. Thanks for watching.